Hello, welcome to The Edge. I'm Zachary Godin, and we're here with our guest, Patrick Gaynard, to discuss the workings and productions of his company, Milk Fudge Productions. Running an indie studio can be a roller coaster of various successes and problems, from many budget, creative, and even contact issues at the very bottom to the many quality work and films you would make at the very top. And without further ado, let us begin the show. All right, Patrick, for our first question, what was your first exposure to the film industry?
I think my first exposure to large budget filmmaking was when I just graduated high school. A lot of my friends were working as background talent on the movie House Guest, which shot in Pittsburgh, and that was when I was a senior in high school. So way back in 1994, Sinbad came to town and they made a movie called House Guest. So a lot of my friends were extras in it, and I got interested. So I was an extra for a morning downtown in a large scene set in a high school. And it was interesting because recently I was back in that auditorium and I was so excited to see the spot where I first saw filmmaking happen. And I had no clue what was really happening. I just sat in the audience. I've seen the movie since. I don't think you can see me, but it was just, it was interesting to sort of sneak back in time and see that space once more. But yeah, it was House Guest.
Yeah. Boy, how much I would kill to have an opportunity like that.
It'll happen. It'll happen for you. It happens for everybody who seeks it out.
I mean, for a second question, how influential was the overall film industry in your childhood?
I was thinking about this recently. When I was a child, I would have said that it was nothing special. It was only as an adult that I can go back and connect the dots. I remember as a child being dropped off at the Crest Theater in Donaldson's Crossroads and watching films. My dad would just drop me off to watch movies there. And at the time, I never thought anything of it, but now that seems so extreme, so important that I would watch movies alone in a movie theater, even as a child. So I did that a lot. At the time when I was a kid, MTV showed music videos, and so during the summer, what you would do is watch music videos until the swimming pool opened, and then you would go to the swimming pool until it closed. I would play badminton with my friend Tina, and then I would stay up as late as I could watching music videos, and I would do that. That was like my summer, summer after summer after summer. That's what I did. So between MTV and then watching movies at the Crest, I ended up spending a lot of time, watching movies and media as a child.
Yes, I'm sure the music video lifestyle is kind of a lot harder to replicate now, considering Jersey Shore took over.
Well, on MTV, yeah, but of course, I think about today's youth and how much immediate access they have via phones. YouTube is so prevalent, so you can watch music videos, you can watch short form and long form content. Exposure to screens, for better or worse, is part of kids' lives now. It's so prevalent.
Of course. So, going back on the question, so why did you choose to pursue the overall director lifestyle as like your main career?
Well, I'm not sure it's fair to say director lifestyle is my lifestyle. Filmmaking is my lifestyle. So I'm obsessed with stories, and I'm obsessed with storytelling. And my role in that process changes every day and multiple times per day. The way that I found filmmaking is, it was very complicated and convoluted. I was in college and I thought I was going to be an engineer. And my friends asked me to come and help on their movies. And while I was helping on their films, engineering didn't work out for me. And I said, well, how can I, what do I want to do with my life? And and I said, well, I love telling these stories. I love helping on set. I love being involved in the filmmaking process, and it's the process that I fell in love with. So, so I've worked as a director and a producer and a cinematographer, and as a production assistant, and as a grip, and an electrician, as a gaffer, as a writer, as an editor. So it's all of these different things together that sort of I love. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it was in college that I found the process, and I'm still in love with it today.
Man. Well, you probably have a much more interesting college life than most people who you would point at. Don't you? Now, question number 4. What was your first project, like your first film project, that you've done yourself?
I was thinking about this. There's sort of 2 projects. In high school, there was something called Channel 1. It was sort of like hyped up news that they would show in homeroom, and if the school agreed to it, Channel 1 would pay for televisions to be put in their classrooms. So I went to Canon and they put those televisions in our high school, and so they offered people a chance to go on a all expense paid trip to Channel 1 and be on the channel. So I made a video to be part of Channel 1. But I really didn't know what I was doing at the time. I got my friend Greg to shoot it for me so that I would be the on-camera talent. And so I got him to do an interview with me and walking around the school and talking about this jacket that I really loved, that I would like shove stuff into. So that was the first project that I was really involved in high school. But I don't know that I would call it mine. So it wasn't until I got to college I did an intro to portable video course when I made my first video that was really mine. Yeah, so it was probably in college. I made this first video about my life, what it was like to be me.
Yes. I could imagine that Channel 1 video was probably a bit hard to shoot in the days before everybody had a camera on their smartphones carrying it all over the place.
Oh yeah, no, it was the way that we did it was we used the high school's equipment, and then Greg cut it, and it was cuts only at the time. It was you had to shoot it with the video camera, and then you had to load all of the material into a computer and cut it. I think that's how we did it. It might have been even before that, when you had to just cut from tape to another piece of tape. So you would have to record the sections you wanted onto the new tape, even before the computer. It might have been like that.
Yes, various tapes. So yeah, go more into what was like the overall experience of being behind the camera, working the things out to create the picture.
In my first project, it was cuts only. This was before you could put stuff into the computer. The first movie, I acted in it and I shot it. So I didn't really have much crew, and I didn't have much help. I got some of my friends to act in it, and it was pretty rough around the edges, But I wanted to destroy a TV. So this was back when it was like tube TVs, the 4x3 TVs. So I put a hammer through the TV, which was pretty exciting. So I had like video cameras shooting me, and then that footage was showing up on the TV live. And then we pulled the power right before I put the hammer through it so that I didn't electrocute myself or blow the tube into my face. But that was sort of a little crazy, but that was part of my first project. So it was very self-reflexive.
That's crazy. So we could go for today for one of your more recent projects. What common filming techniques do you use?
Well, these days, I'm using all modern tools. We use dollies, we use Steadicams, we use wireless gimbals and wireless video, wireless follow focus. I use pretty advanced tools because I'm familiar with them. But in many ways, I'm still doing the same things that I did when I started. I'm just getting better at the techniques. I'd like to say that it's all the tools that are making me smarter, but that's not really the case. The tools do change, but it's myself and my friends that keep getting smarter. Because most of the people I make movies with, and it's not that way across the board, but a lot of the people I make movies with have been doing it for 15 or 20 years. And so, as you would expect, they keep getting smarter, and that makes us better at what we do. So, so the techniques that we use, maybe they're the same techniques as always, right? It's cutting and editing, it's shooting various shots and then cutting them together. It's just getting smarter about what looks good.
Yes. Very interesting how even with massive technologically changings, the techniques still remain the same. Now, for this question, considering your studio is called Goat Milk Fudge, what inspired you to go with that name?
Goat Milk Fudge Productions. So I was in college and I knew I needed a name. And I came home on break, and there used to be a sign on Route 19 across from where King's is, on the edge of Canonsburg. And the sign said Goat Milk Fudge, and I always wanted to steal it. And so in high school, we would drive past that sign on our way to South Hills Village, and I would say to my friends, we need to stop and take that sign. And they would not let me. So in college, they weren't with me, and so I was home on break, and it was the middle of the winter, so I pulled on the side of the road with my car, and I had some tools in the car, and I thought I was gonna take the bolts off the sign, but they were rusted on, so I ripped it out of the ground with my bare hands, and then I shoved it in the car. And then I took it home, and the next day, my dad helped me take the bolts off, and my dad told me that the sign had been there as long as he had been alive. So it had been there at least 45 years. So I took part of the town, which is like a horrible thing. Except that the following year, they leveled the hillside, they took out the farmer's market was there, and they put in a BMW dealership. So it's questionable about whether I stole a piece of the town or whether I saved a piece of the town. But I still have the sign. And since then, my wife has gone on to make thousands of pieces of goat milk fudge, which we often bring to set. But we have children now, so she doesn't make as much fudge as she used to. But we've had events, which we call them Fudge Fests, where we premiere my films and we show my friends' films. We've done it twice in Los Angeles. And I still have the sign at home. It's still the name of my company, but I always think about Canonsburg and Route 19 every time I think of the company.
Man. Well, now that shows your name probably has quite the local significance then, huh?
It does, yeah. It all comes back to our community.
Yeah. Just gonna come out here. May you name a few of your closest workers in the company?
Well, my company is synonymous with me, and it grows and changes with each project, which is pretty common in the film industry. At times I have 40 people working for me or more, and then other times it's just myself. So the company has flexed over the years. A lot of the people who have worked for me multiple times are friends of mine who I've known for years. So my friend John Carius, I met him in film school, and we continue to work together. He's Los Angeles based. Jesse Arnold is a friend of mine. We met in film school. We continue to work together. He's Los Angeles based. Pittsburgh based people, Kevin Hayna is somebody who I regularly produce films with. He's a director in his own right, but he produces with me under Goat Milk Fudge. So Kevin and I have worked together multiple times. And then I should mention from Peters Township High School, Lindsay Turek. and I have worked together multiple times now, and she's a senior graduating this year. So so it's a broad cross section of people.
Yeah, cool. Hey, bro. Alright, close to the family. Well, now we go back to your inspiration. Are there any particular or certain films that you believe you are most inspired by when you're making some of your work?
You know, there are films that I turn to again and again as reference points in my life, and I don't know if they seep into my work or not. Like, I think about the movie Excalibur, John Boorman's Excalibur from the late 70s. Every time I watch that film, I learn something about myself. And certainly I aspire to make material that can be watched again and again, that people get something from each time that they watch it. I don't know if I succeed, but I think about that film all the time. But some of the work that I use as reference points is very silly, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show has affected my life profoundly. You know, I've seen it in a movie theater at least 300 times. I met my wife at Rocky Horror. I proposed to her there. So those two films especially have affected me profoundly. But I see movies all the time that I use as reference points. I really love the movie Ballast for how natural it is. There's a movie called Requiem for a Dream, which every time I see it, I think about how like it's so strong, and it's the type of movie that most people watch and then they say, that movie's great, I never want to watch it again. But I love that about it. I love that it's creepy and it really affects you. So I look to different types of films that then I use as reference points for different projects that I make. So Requiem for a Dream is always a project that I look at when I want to make horror films. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, of course, is a reference point for both comedy but also for musical based pieces. You know, I'm using Excalibur for action and also mythology based work. So I'm using different films for different reference points as I move forward.
It's the perfect way to know what techniques you use for different genres when you get down to it.
Yeah.
Down to it. How do you maintain the budgets of your productions? Huh?
Well, budget is always a crazy thing to work with. So I've made a lot of pieces where the budget has been low to none. And the trick with that work is favor-based work. So a lot of times I'm involving people or production companies who have particular equipment so that then I can raise the quality of my work. So if I know somebody who has a particular camera, I might involve them both because I'm excited to work with them as a person, but also to see if they can bring their tools so that we can raise the quality of our work. But also I'm involved in pieces that are short form, industrial pieces, commercial pieces, and in that regard, we're getting budget from the client. So when I'm doing commercial work, I'm building the cost of the piece. I'm presenting that cost to the client, and then they're paying for the piece. So the budgetary piece is always changing with each piece, how much we're working with. It doesn't change the creativity. It's just really altering the tools or what we can pay people. I will say that what we can pay people sometimes varies the people that are involved in the project, because some people can't come for free. So it is a component of it, but it's changing with every project.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could say the budget always keeps going up and down as the production keeps going on.
It does, yes.
It really does. How much more experience between your first initial high school Channel 1 project and you founding Goat Milk Fudge do you have?
Say that question one more time.
Well, how much experience do you have before you founded the Goat Milk Fudge company, but after you did your first Channel 1 production?
It's only a few years between high school and forming Goat Milk Fudge, and then once Goat Milk Fudge was formed, I got my first industrial clients very quickly after that. I think my first paid clients, I got my first year of film school, which was my second year of college. And the first clients were shooting makeup videos for Chanel. So I would go to the mall and shoot women's faces so that a makeup artist would do their makeup so that the woman, when she bought the makeup, she would know how to do her own makeup. She could take the video home and watch it and be like, oh, this is how they did my makeup. So those were my first paid clients, which I know doesn't sound like large-scale filmmaking, but it paid. It paid reasonable cash for a day's work, and it allowed me to keep making movies that I was interested in. So it's always been a balance, but yeah, just a few years.
Just a few years for small. Now, given that you're obviously not the only indie studio around this area, what do you believe your main competition is? What company do you think is the company that's the biggest competition when you put out your work?
Well, I know this might sound confusing, but my largest competition is myself. It's not me against others, it's me against me. I'm just trying to get as good as I can, as fast as I can. When you think about other production companies, they're made up of my friends. I make it my business to know other filmmakers in town and to work with them and to involve them in my projects. Filmmaking is a group activity, and so we do this together. And so I'm often, if I'm not getting a job, my friend is getting the job that I was up for, and then he may be calling me to go work on it in a supportive role. So we hear about the work. There aren't that many of us, and so we're oftentimes competing for the same jobs and then helping each other when we don't get the jobs, because you have to hire your friends to come and work with you. So my competition is me, is just to become as good as I can be.
There he is. Always trying to live up to your previous projects. This is a big challenge for all of us, for all the stuff we all go into. We all appreciate your honesty. So when you're not working with Goat Milk Fudge, have you and Goat Milk Fudge have worked for more larger media companies?
Sure, I have worked for definitely for larger media companies. I think about some of the companies I worked for when I lived in Los Angeles. And this is questionable. It's not really Goat Milk Fudge, but it's my work. I've worked at Universal, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Sony Pictures. I've worked on large budget productions in supportive roles. So I've certainly worked for very large companies. I've also worked for and had my equipment out for the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. That's the academy that makes the Academy Awards. So I have worked for the Academy many times. So I'd like to think that I've worked for some large-scale companies. I've also worked for GQ, for TV Guide, for National Geographic. So it's been a broad cross-section of companies that I've worked for. And some of them have been Goat Milk Fudge Productions, and some of them have been me personally working as a supportive role, but all of those companies.
So, yeah, you really did manage to get yourself around for a man I don't believe goes to Hollywood, California very much.
I did live in Los Angeles for 11 years, yeah.
So when you're putting out a new piece of work, how do you market it? How do you get the word out?
So I'm using various techniques whenever I'm trying to get my own work out for other people to see. Of course, we use YouTube, but over 14,000 hours worth of material is uploaded every hour to YouTube. So that's not going to be enough. I use festivals. as an entry point. For feature film level work, we use the American film market to get our work out there. So we have lots of different ways to get our work out.
Yes, plenty. Do you believe that you or your company can make an entire movie that would make it into like a wide theatrical release someday?
Absolutely. Last week we had Eddie Steeples in town from My Name is Earl. My friend Aaron Fleming came into town. Both of them are Los Angeles-based actors. We made a teaser for a feature film called Brownstone, which we shot here in Pittsburgh. And so we believe that film, we're hoping to get a small budget, like $350,000, and then we're going to make that independent feature here in Pittsburgh. So I think that film will do well in the national and international market.
Yeah, it's quite promising. I'm saying how do you bring like outside filmmakers outside your initial circle of friends, like you mentioned earlier?
Well, I think part of it is budget, right? When you have money, you can pay them. It's the excitement about the project, and then it's the other people involved in the project. That's how I get outside filmmakers involved in my process and in my projects, is through those three things. It's people, money, story. That's what brings people. And if you have two out of the three, you can really get some incredible people involved in your project.
That's a new project. How do you direct and determine your actors to set them up for the shots?
Do you mean how do I cast them?
Like how do you introduce like the script they have to do, or what kind of voice they have to set up for recording?
When I'm directing them on set, I use a book called Audition by Michael Shurtleff. So I use that really as my guide about how to direct the actors. I would really recommend people check out that book. I think it's a wonderful starting point to jump off about how to direct actors. So I use that as a nice starting point.
Very interesting advice. Is there any genres you have yet to explore but wish to in future projects?
I love quirky comedy. Movies like What's Eating Gilbert Grape. So I look forward to exploring that in future work.
Have you ever considered making like a sequel for any productions you've made in the past?
Actually, I have. So I made a movie with Lindsay Turek, who's a senior here at Peters Township High School, and we have thought about making a sequel to that film, Lost Dog 2. But you can see Lost Dog. It's on the internet right now, and you can see Lindsay acting in it.
Yes. Might be fine. Does your company obtain any outside film festivals outside of your Fudge festivals you mentioned earlier?
Oh yeah, I've been in probably 100 film festivals. So my work has been screened at the Cannes Short Film Corner, which is part of the Cannes Film Festival. It's played in Los Angeles and multiple film festivals and around the world. So yeah, I've been involved in film festivals a lot, and it's been a really positive experience.
Positive experience. And how do you decide which rating to go off of? Which like goes from G, PG, PG-13, R, NC-17, whatever?
My material, the material I've made so far, where I'm directing, has not received an MPAA rating. That's a rating for feature films. It's a volunteer rating system, and I hope future work that I make will be part of that system. But it costs money actually to get that rating as well. So for independent films, it may not be always necessary.
Well, I have plenty of questions I would ask you, but we seem to be running low on time. But thank you for joining us anyway. Thanks for telling all your stories and such for the lovely people. And we'll see you soon on The Edge.